Hello, I am Amanda Starling Gould. I am the Senior Program Coordinator for Educational Programs in Digital Humanities at the Franklin Humanities Institute, and I teach classes in the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Initiative and also for the Graduate Level Studies. This coming semester, spring 2021, I'll be teaching a class that I'm calling Redesigning the Future. And in this class, we'll be thinking about our current moment and moments that we'd like to design in the future. Our current pandemic is, for many, revealing critical failures and design flaws in the foundational systems that guide our daily function. Now, these flaws have always been there, but they are being really vividly shown to us lately. These revelations open problem spaces that allow us to ask what new techniques and technologies and theories might we design in light of our current context? How might we think through the pandemic as we move through it? In this class, we will approach the world as creative designers, interdisciplinary researchers, and intentional inventors. We will take as our premise that today is the beginning of tomorrow. Go with me here. And we will work together to deliberately redesign tomorrow. A local entrepreneur has called our quarantine period a pause, but that feels a missed opportunity for those of us ready to break and remake the world. We're going to do a little bit of world building here in this class. Novelist Arundhati Roy in April wrote in the Financial Times that the pandemic is a portal, and this has become kind of a famous article, but also a really helpful way of thinking. Poet and writer Halal Alan reminds us that this is not a rehearsal. If the pandemic were a portal, one that we are not rehearsing but are actively performing, what would we want to emerge on the other side? And how might we think together as a class to get there? There are new social techniques already emerging. Foot taps are replacing handshakes, face masks are becoming fashion statements, and mutual aid networks are devising new forms of community and mutuality and co-being. There are also new technologies, both simple and sophisticated, that are being deployed to remake our world. Basic plastic parts are being added to crosswalk buttons to transform them to knee-operated mechanisms. Robots are being used to enforce social distancing. What else can we recreate? If today were the start of a new world, and again, please pretend this here with me for a moment, how might we reimagine industries, cultural practices, and global networks? Each student will be able to choose their own topics of exploration and their own forms of research transmission. We'll move through a wide range of each in the class. Throughout this course, we'll cover topics that will include things like labor, healthcare, education, business, climate, access, safety, care, community, technology, networks, really all kinds of things, and student-driven as well. If you are coming to the class already with a research topic, that's great. We'll cultivate that and manifest that into something that is useful for you. As we explore topics and transmissions, research transmissions, we'll be reading and speaking with philosophers, economists, novelists, feminists, educators, artists, and entrepreneurs. We'll invite guests to the class to ask our questions with us and to give us their answers. Our major questions will be, how do our things, our spaces, our artifacts, our environments, our systems design us? How are the spaces that we're using, physical and digital, designing the way that we act and react and move within those spaces? We'll ask as well, how is the pandemic, and we can think broadly here about the pandemic to include climate change and systemic racism and other things that we'd like to discuss. How are these things changing our artifacts and spaces, and thus changing how those artifacts and spaces and technologies are designing us? How is Zoom designing our interaction in the classroom, right? This will be an online class, so we'll think early and often about that. How do technologies design us? How do the algorithms that we're using to design those technologies design us and design the way that we act with them? How can speculative research help us to redesign the world? How can we think through these things with those who think differently from us? How can we call on a wide variety of knowledges to inform our practice? How can we investigate research transmissions? And what I mean here is, how are we communicating and gathering and organizing our research and sharing that? It needn't just be a paper. How can speculative fiction provide a model for future ways of living and or ways of dreaming futures? We'll be asking that as well. So I've gathered here next to me a few of the books that will be engaging through our journey next semester. Get a little snapshot of that. And I welcome anyone to reach out and get in touch if you have questions. And I look forward to seeing you next semester. Thank you.